Stay tuned until the end of the episode. This is a 20-minute AMRAP we got, so I will try to break down all 4 of the movements and give you some mindset cues for the overall workout, how to optimize your potential in this one.
TTT THROWDOWN!
On this week's Throwdown, we have Serpent Cena and Lion Logan demo the workout.
We've got double unders, overhead squats, rowing, and handstand push-ups.
And we release these workouts every Thursday right here on YouTube at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is it Eastern Daylight Time or Standard Time? 1 p.m., whatever, just 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Learn more about the art and science of program design for CrossFit in our online educational platform, The Classroom. Get a free 7-day trial at trainingthinktank.com/classroom trial.
This week's Throwdown is a 20-minute AMRAP of 200 double unders, 100 empty barbell overhead squats, 50 calories on the rower, and 50 kipping handstand push-ups.
I know you want to get on the leaderboard, and to do so, look in the description down below, click that link, and register. There, you'll also find movement standards and a warm-up for this workout.
This week, we have 2 athletes demoing it. The first is a teen athlete. He's 17. He works out at Peak 360 CrossFit. I don't really know that much about him because he's not a TTT athlete, but I like him. His name is Logan. And the other is...
Cena. I coach Cena. She has been a part of the TTT community for a long time. She is 20 years old and getting stronger every day, and she's also our lovely intern.
Let's get into this damn workout.
3, 2, 1, 0.
This workout is my nightmare.
You and me both, Max.
Cena said something at the beginning of this workout that would really piss you off. So I asked her.
Hold on, wait.
Oh yeah.
Let's just roll with it anyway. Make Chris edit this.
He's gonna be so confused.
We gave a sound cue. We thought we had started, but we didn't start yet. But now we've started.
Max said this workout is his worst nightmare, and then I said, Cena said something to me when we were talking her strategy that I was like, that would make Max really mad. I asked her if she was gonna break her double unders, and she was like, you know, sometimes they just feel like I'm just hopping up and down.
I've never felt that way.
I know. I feel like I'm trying to stop myself from breaking the concrete underneath the rubber mats every time.
There's a crack. It's getting bigger and bigger.
So she's a nice late bunny, and I'm a gravity-producing animal.
The real question, though, is what's worse? Judging double unders, having to count 200, or doing 200?
I feel like I get out of shape of not judging double unders.
I agree.
Like,
Yeah, same.
the first time back, it's like, whew, real stressful. Heart rate's really high.
Yeah. All right. So now to actually coaching cues or advice. So Logan is a 17-year-old athlete who actually knows Cena, but he's probably a little bit less skilled and practiced than Cena as a CrossFit athlete. And one thing you can notice about his double unders is how wide his arms are relative to hers. I think guys in the sport generally are just a little wider anyway, just based on like mass and maybe the way we're built, shoulder width. But I think that tighter position allows for a faster turnover, an easier jump, and you can just see the efficiency. I mean, she's just jumping away, hopping like a little bunny.
Yeah, I think some of that comes down to someone's ability to almost like set their shoulder slightly internally rotated and then still have their wrist almost out to the side so that they can spin correctly. For me, that's really hard, so I always end up getting super wide too, but that blows your shoulders up.
Yeah, so it's just something to work on. Maybe Logan could tighten that position up over time, or you just get good enough at doing that. I mean, I think I've seen Rich Froning, who actually holds his arms out a little bit wider, and he has no problem with double unders.
Yeah.
So just something to observe, different strokes, different ways of attacking the same movement.
So Cena's done at 154 or something like that, I think.
Yeah, she tripped once, but basically
Super
stepped
impressive
over the
still.
rope and just kept moving.
Cena has some long femurs, and from this length, they look a little bit close.
I was at her hip watching, and I would tell her when she needed to go lower.
So, but
I thought they looked good.
This is also definitely one of those things when you're doing this many overhead squats at this weight, really any unnecessary motion beyond parallel doesn't make sense. It's like doing air squats. If you can get to parallel and back up, better than spending the extra little amount of time that's required to go to a depth that's unnecessary.
Definitely faster, probably a little bit more efficient. The thing, actually, I think the barbell tests mobility a little bit more than maybe like a 95-65 for a lot of guys, especially that need that like load to get down, push them down.
Yeah.
So this will test some in can they get to full depth and can they stabilize the bar overhead while doing it.
Yeah, something she's doing great here too at the top. Maybe slow her down a tiny bit, but just getting to full hip extension. When the weight's this light, people's tendency is just to short the top.
Yeah.
And you could see like Logan's cadence squatting is actually a little faster than Cena's. Part of that, I think, is that little pause at the top where he kind of just locks his hips out and goes down. But both of them there, I think, are squatting pretty good. They're like both right at parallel and fully open at the top. Maybe, you know, depending on the judge you had or where you were in person, you might be able to.
Yeah, this is one of those things where if you're in person, you can kind of push and see what, what
see what
below
your judge
parallel
allows.
like means different things to different judges, and that's just the truth.
Yeah, well, it's human error. Nobody's eye is perfect, and I think even if you set up like a dartfish lens on this, you'd probably get a couple of the reps that were not above and a couple were below. But if you're watching it at normal speed in person, you know, it's a hard thing to catch and get perfect every time.
So something that I would do on the overhead squats, and you have to have pretty good shoulder mobility to do this, is I would change my grip around on every set. Like go a set snatch grip, a set jerk grip, just to distribute the shoulder fatigue a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. So it seems like, oh man, it's a lot of squats, but it's also a lot of shoulders holding, even though it's a light bar, and then you're going to do double unders, which is shoulder intensive, and kipping handstand push-ups, which is also shoulder intensive. So there's also just the shoulder management of breaking it up to be able to maintain for the whole workout.
Yeah, definitely moving your hands around if you can. I think most people don't have the range of motion to do that. So for those that don't try to and then blow up in the middle of the workout. But if you can, Mia has great overhead positions where she can go into a really close grip and still go up and down quickly.
They are great.
Let me get a compliment.
So it definitely will work for some. It won't work for others. But I think that that's what we should like all aspire to, because especially in this sport, the overhead position is, to me, just as important as a good squatting position, if not more, because all the gymnastics movements require it, and a lot of the barbell movements require it with the snatch or the clean and jerk or the overhead squat or even the thruster.
Yeah, this is an interesting style. So this is like kind of old school CrossFit style workout with like super light loading, where it's also came back because now they have new benchmark workouts that are done with an empty barbell, which is the inspiration for doing something like this. Is like preparing for trying to think like, where does the sport go? Where does the open go? If it's going to be for universal accessibility, an empty barbell is a lot more accessible than a 95-pound barbell, and people can just squat it, right? This also is a good training tool for, you know, a lot of people that don't have good overhead positions want to do a lot of snatch technique work or want to do a lot of mobility, but sometimes just doing reps at a weight that you can control in good positions, like an empty barbell, can help you develop that.
Yeah. So 50 cal row now, it's 50 for both males and females. Am I correct, Mia?
Yes.
Just wanted to double check that.
Yes, Cena was in the thousands for the whole row, basically.
Which is, I mean, that's
like
really,
between
really good.
1,000 and 1,100.
Yeah,
and
which
she's
is a really good.
Yeah, very good endurance athlete.
Yeah, that's a super impressive pace. You definitely can make up or lose time on the row, but if you know that you're going to get into the second round, you've got to be thoughtful about how fast you go so you don't blow up for either the handstand push-ups or, like for me, I would be thinking about the second round of double unders. That would be where it really got hard.
The second round of double unders?
Yeah, going into that the second round when I'm doing 200 double unders.
Yeah,
would
I was
be
just thinking the first 200.
Oh, well, yeah. No, they definitely would be hard too. 5 minutes in.
Yeah. I'm still here.
I think, you know, you think about a workout like this, and it is kind of trying to figure out like you're pacing all the way across, but still having crisp transitions. She's still racing Logan, so I like the way that she went from the barbell. She got on right away and got to her working pace, and then kind of settled down into the stroke cadence that she wanted. Little things like that, even though, yes, it's a long workout, so the transitions don't matter as much, still can help. And psychologically, I think I'm on the rower, he's still working. Those kind of race things that you can think about definitely help long term.
So Logan is overhead squatting, but Ryan looks like he's done now, transitioning on the rower. I peeked over at his rower just at the very beginning, and he was in the 1200s. I don't know if he maintained that.
That's also solid.
Yeah, that's a good pace. I think for the overhead squats, there's probably two ways to approach it to break through 100 reps. I think you can kind of do the same strategy that you would do with any type of a movement that would break down, where you do a big set and then just chip away by feel on short rest breaks, or you set like, hey, I'm gonna do 10 sets of 10 on this and rest in between them. I think those are probably the two most efficient strategies for people, and it's really just dependent on how you operate best through 100 reps of something. Some people, no matter how they pace it, after 70 reps are breaking down. For those people, sometimes it makes sense to get ahead of the clock and chip away. And for the people that are really good at just maintaining their form, as long as the reps are manageable, then breaking it up into a small chunk and just trying to fix your rest time would be the best way to approach it.
Yeah, I would definitely go with the route of I'm going to do as many as I can quickly in the first round and then just kind of see how I can hold on. But that's just because it's a lower skill movement for me. If it was something like a deficit handstand push-up in this workout, or if it was a lot of muscle-ups, that's when I would definitely try to pace, because that's where you can just bottleneck yourself to where you can't do any reps.
Yeah, something to consider too is this a lot of time, even though it's an empty bar, to put it back down on the ground, stand up, and then pick it back up all the way back up overhead. So, you know, it's much more time consuming to break there versus breaking in double unders, for example.
So for Țeană, I've coached her for a couple years now. I'd say like about a year of full coaching, and then there was a period of time where she did the design and I just supplemented some stuff. But even during that time, we've been working on strict handstand push-ups. I actually have a spreadsheet for her, and it has like 80 weeks of strict handstand push-up progression. So that
80 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, what a disciplined athlete.
That shows you how long she's been working on her pressing strength. And I was really impressed with how she handled these handstand push-ups this deep in the workout.
Yeah, I remember when she started with you, Mia, she was not good at them at all. So she's definitely made a ton of improvement. Yeah, I was going to just say, kind of along that vein, handstand push-ups to me can still be one of the largest separators in a workout like this, especially for higher level athletes that, you know, someone that may be really good on the row or the overhead squats, if you get there and you have to break these up into fives or go to doubles and singles at the end, you're losing a ton of time versus like the Noah or someone like that may do 25, 15, 10, and then he's done with the handstand push-ups.
Yeah, I think 3 sets with a less than 10-second break is what you're looking at for elite male or female. I think actually it's possible that elite females at gymnastics for kipping handstand push-ups are actually better than males, just because they're lighter.
And their lims are usually shorter.
Yeah, and they're a little bit shorter.
And women are just better in general.
Come on, Brandon. You got to be on our team.
My wife is here. I gotta be careful. Yeah, no,
so
I
that just
agree.
gives a context for how much of a separator it could be. Because I think Țeană's breaks here, they're not super long. Her reps are, I think she opened with 10.
She held sets of 10, I believe, to maybe 40 or just below that.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that that's like a RX level approach to this workout.
Especially for a longer limbed athlete.
Yeah, for sure. And you're still losing like maybe 2 minutes relative to an elite athlete, which is basically almost 200 double unders or 200 double unders exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think a workout that you can go back and look at and see what the times look like was the 55s workout from the Open, where there were 55 kipping handstand push-ups, wall ball, deadlift, row, and the handstand push-ups. There was a huge separator there for the guys and the girls that went fast at the end on those handstand push-ups to get back to the wall balls. And some people were to the wall much sooner, but then they were breaking down with fives or whatever it is for them.
That was me.
Yeah. So that workout.
The first 3 movements in that workout.
For sure. So that workout obviously was dependent on that. I think very similar for this one. Obviously it's longer, 20 minutes now. You still have to go back through the double unders, but you can make up a ton of time here.
So Logan looks like he's doing about 5s. As he does this, something to watch, you can see technically in them next to one another. So Țeană kind of like gets down to the bottom and her knees are almost down at the bottom of the kip, whereas Logan kind of goes down almost in a full handstand and then brings his knees down and goes back up. So his reps are actually slower, and there's another degree of that. Like Travis, when he does kipping handstand push-ups, is basically going down and slightly bending his knees a little bit, and then once his head hits the ground, he kicks them up and goes back in the other direction. So there's almost 0 contact time of his head on the mat. It's like touch and go. And that's all of the elite performers at kipping handstand push-ups. I just happen to use him as an example because he barely bends his legs. So that's kind of something that you take into consideration as you're developing yourself first. It makes sense to be able to do big sets and then do big sets with short breaks and maintain them under fatigue. And then when you kind of get to that next level, it's about making them all fast.
Yeah.
You know, and you can start practicing making them fast, but if you make them, like, I can do 3 reps fast, it doesn't help me if I got to go to 50. So I think there's kind of like tiers to your development.
It's the hierarchy of like a performance, or being a good performer for sure. I mean, and the elite males and females, with just to give the audience an idea, they're doing those at just under a second per rep when they're sprinting. So you think about 50, they could do 50 in maybe 45 or 47 seconds if they did them unbroken. That's so much faster than someone that maybe does them unbroken but is taking almost 2 seconds per rep because they're pausing at the bottom.
Yes, yeah. So it's not just about the set size. Something to note: Cena is back to the double unders, and they still look really good. Her positions still look really good. Her bound height is still the same. For people like me and maybe Brandon, who have really struggled with double unders, and who's like, for me, if I'm just fresh, I can kind of do them. But if you start to swell my shoulders up from handstand push-ups and make me tired and breathe heavy, I just start missing all the time. So like watching this, like that's a big separator for an athlete to have that skill set. She also has a running background, so I think that aids in her hoppiness.
She definitely takes more breaks here. I think she did like 80 and then 40s, but they're controlled breaks, and she's breaking when she wants to break, and her rest breaks aren't getting crazy long.
Yeah, I think that rest break was less than 10 seconds. Again, this will be major elite. If you're somebody that can do 200 double unders unbroken in the second set, she did it, I think, in the first set. She did 200.
She tripped once.
Okay, so one trip. And she was like 154. So somebody doing it unbroken is probably going to be like in the mid 140s. Whereas in this set, if you could do that and not have the breaks, you maybe save 40 to 50 seconds.
Yeah.
So definitely some time to be saved in all of the elements of this workout. I'd say the row is probably the least separator of this workout. That'd be my guess from
unless
watching
you're barely pulling.
Yeah, unless you're
Definitely
that's you, then you
lose
need
a lot
to work
of time,
on it.
but you could also lose a lot of time on the other movements by going too hard on the first row, like Brandon said.
For sure. You'll have to rewind it now, but one of the things, Max touched on this a little bit, but her bound height is just so impressive, and I think that's almost every good double under athlete has that same, it's only like 2 or 3 inches off the ground, whereas I think for someone like maybe Max or I, we're jumping, once we get fatigued, 5, 6, 7 inches, and one, that's slower, but two, we're using so much more effort. So that's something that everyone should be working on.
Or what I do is I'll jump, not that high because my vertical's not great anymore, but I'll pull my knees up. So it's basically, it kind of messes up your timing and your rhythm. Something that you can do to time this is set it to a metronome. A elite CrossFit jump roper will probably do about 120 double unders unbroken in a minute. So if you start jumping on 120 jump per minute cadence, that can give you an idea without having to worry about the rope of what your jump height needs to be rhythmic. Then you work on putting the rope under that twice. So it kind of requires good jumping ability and then great hand timing to match up your double under with your jump. Because I think for me, I can bound at 120 beats per minute, but I can't necessarily time that with my gorilla hands. They don't work that well. So
they're great for other things.
Like picking up food and eating it.
This is about the time I realized she was going to finish the workout on the rower, and I felt for her.
That's a tough one to sprint finish on this workout. So maybe it actually could be a separator, because if you sprint at the end of the workout in the second round, can make up a lot of time for it, because it's in calories and not meters.
So she still has that slight pause at the top, but I actually really like this, especially once you're fatigued. It almost gives you, like, it alleviates some of the burn that you have, but you keep that same cadence throughout, so at least you know, like, I can do a set of 15 or 20 or whatever her rep scheme is for this.
And Logan's just charging with his double unders. But you could definitely see, like, just he's lost some of the rhythm and shoulder position and the arms being out wide, and he's obviously redline and challenged here. That's my favorite resting posture. So I know he's tired if he's resting that way.
Yeah, if we watch him, you can kind of see where his bound is changing each jump. His hands are moving, like Max said. And that is the normal CrossFitter right there. Someone that's maybe not as efficient at double unders. But one of the things, like Max said, start with just the jumps and then put a rope in your hand. Do some practice, maybe the cadence a little bit different, where your jump height is, where your wrists are. All those little things that, like, they're boring, but those are the things that allow you to be more efficient in workouts like this. And the thing is when you're more efficient, you're using less effort per rep. So it's a little bit easier when you're actually in the workout. workout.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you can notice is that he's not jumping in place. He moves left, he moves right. If you think about timing a double under, if you're moving to one direction and your arms stay the same, you're more likely to hit your feet with the bottom of the arc of the thing, and that's where some of the misses come. So when you're moving in all directions with your bound, that can actually, from the ground up, be one of the causes of you missing double unders and having bad timing. And I know that from personal experience because my ankles don't work the same on both sides from having knee surgery and breaking my right ankle. It's actually harder for me to bound on one side. So I kind of inherently lean, and then that throws my balance and changes my arm position. So there's so many little things that you can do if it's your desire to refine this skill. I went through a training cycle that you guys saw with Molly instructing me, and it was a ton of reps, and so much of it was basic, and it really helped. Some of those skills now have deteriorated, but if your goal is to be competitive, this is one skill that you really should have dialed in because it's tested all the time.
And it makes such a big difference for the people who can rest during it.
Yes, for sure.
All right, so
Cena's off.
She's done a little less than 90 seconds.
Yeah, a little hand dry, still a great transition. So from finishing even with the hand dry into the rower, was basically 5 seconds, and she looks like she's pulling aggressively.
You can see that.
So, and she's got some clock awareness there. I think this has just been overall like a good execution relative to just watching without knowing much about her fitness. Logan, same thing. I mean, I don't really know his fitness. It looks like this second set of double unders, this is where I think I would break down as well. Like, you know, if your double unders aren't great and you're under fatigue, like he's had some sets of 5 and 10, and that was a miss at 1. You just frustrated losing time, and they're hard, and jumping is hard every time. So that's the biggest bottleneck, I think, after watching Logan through this first 19 minutes.
I think there is a good place to pay attention to rest management. Like if you're doing 5 double unders and tripping, can you just take a breath and do the next one?
Yeah,
or
for sure.
Versus,
yeah.
But Cena is charging.
Yeah.
Do you remember what her
finish.
pace was?
She was I think she was in the 1100s by the time she got on, and then by now she's 13s for her sprint finish.
Yeah, super solid.
I believe that's correct.
I think I'd be a lot faster than that.
You wouldn't, because you wouldn't be on the rower.
True. All right, so we're finishing up.
She finishes with, she heard someone say something that she thought was time, but I don't think it would have made that much of a difference. She finished with 26 calories. I don't know the number of double unders that Logan finished at.
Come on, I'll talk about that in the whiteboard.
If someone wants
I'll save
to
her.
count them, let us know.
Yeah, great job, guys.
All right, so strategy-wise, this workout kicks off with 200 double unders. That number for somebody like me is quite large. For an elite athlete, it would probably be something that they're trying to go into unbroken. The average elite competitor, there is some variance to this, but the average elite competitor would do about 120 double unders unbroken in a minute in their Metcon pace. They could go a little bit faster, but that's generally where they kind of throttle into in terms of what a sustainable pace is. That means that they're gonna spend about 1:40 on those double unders to open up the workout because they're gonna go unbroken because they're fresh and it's the first thing. So for people with less skill, say an intermediate athlete, you might wanna think of it like 10 sets of 20 unbroken double unders with a 10-second rest between. That means you'd finish in about 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So you're still giving 90 seconds away to an elite athlete, but it might set you up for more success through the rest of the workout and not opening with a big set and then taking 30 or 40-second rests because you blew yourself up too early in the workout. That would be kind of more of an intermediate style breakup of it. Maybe for an RX athlete or even an elite athlete who's just not great at double unders, you could do something like 4 sets of 50 with a 7-second rest break. You'd only finish in 2 minutes and 1 second, or about 2 minutes. Giving up 20 seconds in a workout this early in a 20-minute AMRAP would definitely be worth it. So it's just definitely something to consider at. The second set of double unders, which I think most people would get to who are doing this workout, is going to be much more difficult than the first. So this is really only your starting pace. For an elite athlete, maybe they can still do 200 unbroken in that second set, but I'm guessing with the shoulder fatigue of the handstand push-ups that when you get back there, everyone's breaking it up a little bit more. This just kind of gives you some sort of a guideline as to how long are you spending in the front half of the workout on double unders. For overhead squats, this is actually a very interesting challenge because most people are practicing overhead squats with more loading. When it's this light, I think speed of movement, doing bigger sets than you're used to, and just taking faster rest breaks than you're used to are going to be the keys to this. It's almost thinking of it like it's a little bit more than an air squat. And if this were doing 100 air squats for time, if you go into it with that type of mindset, then the rep scheme doesn't seem so scary. It's something that you can kind of approach. For those of you that have overhead mobility restrictions, just be cognizant of that and be cognizant of not getting it to failure, because you still do have the handstand push-ups at the end of the round. But I think with the row here in between, I think that would kind of settle out and move the fatigue out of the shoulders. So I think you can be a little bit aggressive here with the overhead squats. Moving into the row, this one is key to think of it like a 20-minute AMRAP pace. If you sprint 50 cals, you can definitely make a good amount of time up, but I think in the context of this workout being 20 minutes, doesn't really make sense. So my recommendation would be get up to your working pace quickly so you don't waste any time in those initial calories, then settle into your pace. Also, no kick at the end of this, because I don't think it makes sense to kick to give yourself more of a intense respiratory and heart stimulus where you're kind of fatigued and out of breath and then have to go do handstand push-ups. So I think just get to your working pace, settle into that pace, finish, get off, transition really quick into the handstand push-ups. And we talked a bit about this in the commentary. I think for elite athletes, this is kind of a 2 to 3 set movement with a quick break. So they might do 25, 15, 10 with a quick break in between because they're kipping handstand push-ups, and that's the type of skill level that they would have. For an RX athlete, I'd say maybe we're moving from like 3 to 5 sets, maybe 5 sets of 10 would be a target, and then the rest breaks would be a little bit longer than you'd see from an elite athlete. So they'd probably kick down from the wall, take a break, shake their arms out, kick right back up in 5 seconds. Maybe for an RX athlete, those breaks start at 10 or 15 seconds, and you just be aware of the fact that you're not able to keep up with the elites in this type of a format. For the intermediates, I don't think it makes sense to set a target for yourself. I'd say just chip away with the cue that your rest breaks are fast. If you're only doing sets of 2 to 3 and you have 50 total to go through, then it's really not about the speed of your reps. It's about how much time you're wasting just standing on your feet waiting in between sets. So just chip away as you can. Then as you move into round 2, the target would just be to sustain your speed. Whatever you set up in round 1, your goal in round 2 is to do the same thing, or slightly faster depending on where you are. So we watched Cena get through into finishing the row of round 2, which means that her row split here was actually faster in round 2 than it was in round 1. So be cognizant of the fact that if you have a finishing kick somewhere throughout this workout, you might actually be going more aggressive than you were at the start of the workout. But that's dependent on where you are. For example, it's much easier to kick on a row than it would be on something like handstand push-ups if your arms just got to failure. You can't really take advantage of the fact that the clock is getting to 20 minutes and you want to go, 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 but your arms aren't able to press you up. So the pace of the second round is going to be contingent upon where you finish and what the movement is relative to your skill level. Final thing for the elites, we watched Cena go through 1 full round and then all the way through to the row. I think for an elite athlete, you'd probably finish 2 full rounds, the double unders, and then maybe some of the overhead squats. So that would be a challenge to anybody to put on the leaderboard. That's it that's all I got for this week on the Throwdown. I'll see you next week.
It's a wrap, you know what I'm saying? Your boy Project Pata in this thing, man. Hey, look, man, thank y'all for watching Training Think Tanks YouTube channel. Y'all hit that motherfucking subscribe button, you know what I'm saying? So y'all go ahead, man. Thank y'all for watching the channel, you know what I'm saying? Hit that motherfucking subscribe button, let it be known, what it be known, what it be known, you know what I'm saying? Pata.